All right. Pardon me. Sorry. All right. Hi everyone. So it's been it's been a few days since we just had the U.S. Open, and it was a very interesting U.S. Open in regards to the course I went to. I would say the lackluster finish. I guess there's a lot of I don't know controversy. Right? There's a lot of debate about Los Angeles Country Club being a very good course, not a good course, the atmosphere, conditions, and so forth. So I thought about doing a video. I played this course once in this game. I haven't been there in real life, so I thought about playing this, kind of like going over the course a bit. Also, kind of going back to the U.S. Open, kind of discussing like, how that played out and so forth. And I think like, and the reason I feel like doing this is because, I think NBC didn't do a good job capturing the course because there's really hype going into it, especially people that've been there, did videos of it, like overall course videos and talking about it. And I think watching it and playing it, I'm more mixed on it over time as I dig further into it. And I feel like it'd be kind of a nice discussion to kind of go through that. But I will say, kind of like before we kind of go more into the course and stuff, I think I think what really hurt this U.S. Open is a couple of things. I think one, NBC did not really do a good job. There was a lot of commercials. Like, I think, this is like on the No Laying Out podcast, like Thursday, Friday rounds. Like, especially the first couple rounds, they timed it around 20, 25 minutes of commercials per hour. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Even let's say you do like a show that's like, let's say 45, like a typical hour one show, it's usually about 48 minutes. So you get about 10 to 12 minutes of commercial. Let's say, 10 to, 10, 12, 10, 12 minutes, sorry. And we had about 20. And then you kind of and it was like that all day, Thursday, Friday. It got better towards the very end in terms of like lighting the commercial load, but it still felt like it was a lot. I think there was a lot of issues. It really hurt the flow at times. I think the way they broadcasted too didn't help either. Hold on, so I'm gonna I haven't played as much recently, so I'm gonna arcade this a bit. Sorry, 1 second. But I was saying, like, the flow was bad. I think the commentary was pretty mixed, and it's a shame because I like NBC usually. I think they have a decent crew, but like Paul Azinger just wouldn't shut up at times. He just rambled on. Anytime the Marine lyric came in, he just was losing it. It was just really, really ridiculous. Doesn't mean everyone's bad. Like, that's Smiley. I like Nota Begay. I think he's pretty good. So, and also I think the daytime crew is pretty good. Like the earlier crew, like they have like multiple crews since they're on for about 12 hours a day. So, I don't think it wasn't super horrible. I could just tell there was just issues with it I just did not like. Mostly with the commercial load and just the pace and how they were presenting. I think were just big issues at times. That's gonna be a little too much. And also kind of. Also, I think also. Well, actually, so this is mostly I'm talking about NBC so far. Real quick. So with this hole, I think what hurts. I don't think it's a very interesting first hole, to be honest, in my opinion. It's pretty straightforward, which is fine. But it's like, as you saw, like a lot of people did well in this hole. Obviously I went a little over. I hooked it a little bit, but it's like, I still have a chance for birdie. This is for eagle. That bunker is not the deepest bunker. I think there are some really good holes on this course that were interesting and I liked. But I just felt like with this, I think that's a big issue. Like, not every course can be perfect. Like, 10 out of 10 each hole. But definitely didn't feel as special as like, I thought Oak Hill was better. I thought that was more interesting from the start, get-go. Obviously the Masters is more interesting and so forth. This is just about this first hole. We'll go more back into the holes in a couple minutes here. But yeah, I think I've said everything with NBC. Like, it wasn't horrible. I think some people give them a lot of crap, but I did think it was not a good broadcast overall. Just bad breaks. Too many breaks. On Saturday, they actually missed, I think, Wyndham Clark's tee shot, and there's like some other ones they missed. And like Azinger, Paul Azinger says, like, Oh man, you know, shame that no one. Yeah, he actually even commented like, "Oh, I wish we could have saw that." And I like there's a Tron Carter at Lane Up. He goes, "Yeah, so did I. So you know, I wish I did too. You should talk to your producer why we didn't see it." And that was 100% spot on. Because like, why did we not see it? You know, and especially because like, there's a good chance they caught it on camera. Like if they didn't, that's just even sadder because they're on 12 hours a day. It's a major. Like, you know, if CBS and Augusta can capture every shot and put it online, I don't understand why NBC and the U.S. Open can't do that. So, just a lot of mistakes like that. And finally, I would say, with the NBC coverage, they had this constant plane hovering the entire fucking day, especially on the weekend when it cleared up. And that's all you kept hearing is this buzzing sound. And I don't hate the plane, but it was getting kind of annoying, especially because there was not really a good atmosphere of fan support and so forth. So, yeah, anyway, so that's kind of, you know, we'll kind of wrap it up with NBC coverage. Now let's do a quick hit. So I think this one gets a little more interesting. Like, it's not super common, but I like this approach shot. So luckily, yeah, so let me talk about the hole and then I'll start talking about the course more broadly from here on out. So, you know, so yeah, it's got like a nice approach, a little short and stuff, but like with this pin placement, like most pros are gonna have no issues. And not me in real life, like, you know, my avatar can, but. So okay, so I just want to kind of like going over the course. I think what also happened during this U.S. Open, why I think it soured quite a few people with this course. And it kind of did with me too, and I think there's some other, you know, as we go on, I kind of go over some of the holes I like and don't like. Like, I didn't really like the first hole. It's just kind of, you know, it's just there, you know, kind of interesting, but I thought Brookline, the Country Club last year was more interesting in regards to an opening hole. So, I think, you know, but one trend you're going to kind of see is you kind of already did in the beginning. So, like, there's some holes with narrow fairways, like the first one's kind of narrow, but like that's wide. But this hole had a pretty wide fairway, and there's several holes. There's quite a few holes that are wide fairways, and I think for these pros, it really mean it kept them out of the rough. And leading into this U.S. Open, a big talking point was about the Bermuda. They actually have Bermuda rough, which is very uncommon in Southern California. Yeah, it's more what you see down in the southeast, let's say, but. The Bermuda rough, when I have played in it, it's kind of unique. It looks unique because like you'll walk in it and it doesn't seem horrible. Like you look at it, you can easily see your shoes, but when a golf ball goes in, it just kind of like engulfs it, just drops to the bottom, and there's grass in on top. So it's a very thick, you know, misleading rough where it can really, you know, engulf your ball and hide it so forth. So, but with these wide fairways, it made it kind of hard for like. Well, not hard, but not as many players really end up like you thought they would. Like, it didn't seem as difficult to get out of the rough. While, like, some of the other U.S. Opens are a lot more narrow, it is very difficult out of this rough. Now, this is actually a hole I do like. But I did think, you know, kind of referencing NBC, they didn't really highlight this hole well. Like, from here, like, so it gets a little interesting. You got these slopes here, so you're trying to get up a certain part of the fairway and watch it funnel down. I think the approach shot's interesting. Like, the green is surrounded by these bunkers, and you have a back there with rough, you know, like kind of like right. See, and it's elevated, so you're kind of below it. You know, it's a good 23 feet. You know, you got a little wind here. You got this very thick rough. I think they call it the not. What do they call that? I'll look it up in a second. But you see here, this is actually like an interesting approach shot. Like, you know, you can maybe go left and have a little more fairway, a little less, but then you can have a further shot. So this actually created some strategy. And also, look here, the ball is slightly above my feet. That makes it a little more challenging how the ball reacts. Now, for the pros, they know how to handle it. But for like the amateur, it does get more challenging. And see, you had to do it like that, just trying to make sure you have enough to get there. Ooh, kind of right off, so... Was it Bermuda? Anyway, so this is actually interesting, but like, he didn't really do a good job with it. It seemed like half the time you know, outside like maybe future group coverage, which is probably one of the better, you know, stuff. You know, one of the better ones to get in, like seeing more of the course. Oh, a little too fast. You know, because I look at this hole and like, okay, now I can see why there was some hype by like, you know, especially the people that love talking about golf architecture and history. You know, this is like a good example of like a good, you know, unique classic design hole, and this one as well. You know, the par threes I thought were really good. Even on TV, they actually captured those pretty well. The Zoom one on Saturday only played 98 yards, but they did the tee box, so it was really just a simple wedge shot, but just seeing like the green, and it was really narrow, and they had to kind of like, you know, they try to hit the spot, watch it roll up a hill, then back towards the hole, you know, a little slope that kind of sloped upward behind the pin. So it was kind of really cool. Like that was a really good hole, and that was really set up well. I'm still trying to see. I keep just seeing run into Bermuda. All right, who cares? It's like Bronco or something. But you see, look at this. Now we're going down 26 feet, and you imagine. You know, some wind and stuff. It makes it very interesting. But let's do this one more time. You see, nice down. We're like going into a valley. I like these types of par threes. They're really fun. They're unique. They look beautiful. Oh, look at that. Oh, see, a little too much. Luckily, it's not bad. We can play with that. But like, so as an example, then if it's like firm, it's supposed to bounce off. Now, what did happen in the U.S. Open, which I think, like, this is an example of a good hole where it's like, it's a wide green, which that kind of can make it a little more. I think some people don't like that. I'm fine with that because usually at the U.S. Open they're firm, the balls bounce a lot, they roll a lot, so it's hard to stay on. You got to really have the right amount of spin and just the way you play your shots and so forth. But what happened, unfortunately, and this, I want to be 100% fair. This is not the U.S. Open or USGA's. Ah, that would be cool. This is not the USGA's fault. It just happened as Mother Nature came in. So there's this thing in Southern California called the marine layer, and basically it's like these clouds come in from, you know, like Pacific Ocean, and it's like this damp, cool atmosphere that kind of, and it softened the course quite a bit. Like you saw. I know they changed the updates where there's going to be more wisp outs. Sure happening. But anyway, so it softened the course a lot. So instead of these, you know, the fairways being really firm, you didn't see balls roll much into the rough like they thought they would. Like on that hole, you saw balls stayed on the green a lot easier than mine did. And mine, I actually turned these conditions down a little bit from the tournament. Because when I played tournament, it was actually a lot tougher the way the ball reacted, you know, with the conditions on the course, and that didn't happen in reality. So I decided to make it more realistic this time with what really happened. Now it did kind of baked up in the weekend. Yeah, they call it baked up, you know, like warmed up, and things started cooking out there, where the, you know, things kind of dried and firm up. And you saw that Friday afternoon where the strokes, people were playing a lot. It was playing a lot tougher. Like there were more strokes. People were getting more strokes out there than they did in the first, you know, in the morning round. And then you kind of saw on the weekend where you didn't see as many low scores, except for like Tommy Fleetwood, like in terms of like, you know, like a -7 there. But having said that, it's like it really, the damage is done. Like it turned it, you know, kind of, people watch it, but they were upset. Like we saw these really soft conditions and kind of ruin the, you know, the atmosphere of the course and the challenge. Because for a long time, you know, the U.S. Open try to pride themselves as the toughest test, and you know, the toughest test in golf. Real quick, this hole is kind of similar to what we saw a couple holes back. You know, kind of fairway, and you got these bunkers. Like this is an interesting design. What makes it interesting, which didn't happen, is kind of like back to the marine layer. It's supposed to be really firm out here. It just didn't really happen, but the players were hugging the right. It should firm enough and be fast enough they would go into that rough and behind the trees, making it challenging. But we just didn't see it happen, or we didn't see it happen, and NBC didn't really show it off when it did happen too. So it kind of ruined again. There's a sour, sour taste there, because it's like, well, where's this challenge and unique stuff I keep hearing about? We just didn't see it really outside the par threes. So, but it really softened the conditions, and basically what happened, you know, for anyone that watching that doesn't know, we saw the record low, the lowest score in a round as a 63 was Johnny Miller, I think in 73, and he did it to win the U.S. Open. And you know, it was like this like magical number, you know, kind of like 62 or 70 home runs in baseball, however you want to look at it, if you include, you know, the steroid era or not. You know, personally, you know, it was this magical number, and we saw Ricky Fowler broke it. You know, he got to 62, so he broke the record. You know, 63, he shot a 62. But yet, it felt a little meh, and not because, you know, it was Ricky. You know, we all like, you know, a lot of people like Ricky, and it was good to see. It just seemed like it felt meh because then about 30 minutes to an hour later, Xander Schauffele did the same thing. He shot a 62, and he had other guys who were like 500 or 600. Like he had some of the lowest scores probably in a single round, like bulk, you know, like amount of low scores that was just like really crazy. And you normally don't get that in the US Open. Like you've had winners in the plus, you know, +5. Even like in the last 25 years, there's been a couple winners that are barely below par and even over par. Like it's supposed to be. This is actually interesting. We'll go in a second. So I think that really dampened the mood right there. Like people were expecting that, and I think it just kind of really hurt it, and so forth. Now this hole is an interesting hole, and again, NBC they kind of showed it at times, but basically you kind of got this valley, and you kind of go in. Like, see, this is actually kind of cool. You don't see a design like this too often. Like, and I said not to go for it. I decided to play it safe, going this, and it's a par 4. Wait, is this a 3 or a 4? It's a 4. Thank God. So, you know. This is an idea of an interesting, cool design, and I like it a lot. And you know, you kind of go down here, and it's still not safe, but it's like, you know, you have this tight green instead of trying to go in the bunkers or getting stuck in the rough. You try to lay it up into a good spot where you're comfortable to wedge it on, like this. Oh no, I didn't hit it hard enough. We'll see, and that's what happens. Yeah, once I saw no red, I knew I screwed up. That should be good. Now, I will say this. There were times where people in the bunkers like this, NBC did do a good job showing how tall. Like, look how tall this is. Like, see, it's, you know, my head, you know, is barely above when I'm standing there. You know, that's a good example, you know, of like, you know, the challenge of some of these bunkers. And that did show up well on TV, and did show some of its teeth on this course. But as you see, we've gotten some good holes now. Like, it kind of starts off lackluster and then really picks up. Now, what's interesting, the architect of this course also did Riviera, which is the Genesis, and it's there every year. And that's actually, I think it's a great course. I think it's a really good course. I like it more than LACC from what I've seen and played. Now, this is a good example. This is the, you know, the super long par 3, and there was like, they did have this in the U.S. Open. That's, I think it played more like 290 than 320. Like they're all clapping before anything happens, even though they did the super slow mo. That's one way to birdie. Now this one is one of the better holes. Like that par 2 is kind of neat, but it's just long. You know, it didn't really you know, it's a big green, and like I bet you, like it wasn't. Yeah, I just remember not much of it. Now this one I did like, but there was actually something interesting that didn't happen. I saw over the weekend that felt sad. Like, so I'm gonna do a little bit. I saw some players got up here in the rough, and either because it was still, I guess maybe it dried out too much or wasn't thick enough. Like I think they shortened it a little bit. It just bounced back in the fairway and they were fine. So it kind of again ruined a little of the element where people were hoping for like the challenge, because like you'll see it when we get over and watch the ball. This is kind of a tight corridor. See, you got these trees. There's the green over there. So ideally, you kind of want to like this. See, it's going to go down here, even in the it stays out of the rough, which is good. But you know, you kind of get yourself a more clear-eyed view. See, and the thing with these shots, like irons, they hit them high enough, it's not going to be a super problem. But it's like you just want to have, you don't want like a full blind shot. You want to have some idea what's going on. That's probably too much. Ooh. I should have checked that. So there's a slope here. Yeah. So, but I did think that was interesting. I like the slopes there, and the approach shot's pretty unique. So, you know, I think this is one of the better holes I saw out there. And they did show that well in too. That was actually one of the better ones, because they did, you know, show it kind of coming off. Yeah, how it is on the fairway, and I saw some players were kind of stuck on the hill, even the rough, and trying to hit it over those trees and so forth. Like, it was really interesting. And then there's also this par 3. Also, one note, kind of, I think also what hurt this US Open was the atmosphere. And a little backstory. They only had like, most of the tickets were for corporate and the club holders. So it was like, so they really call it the corporate US Open, and I think that was a very accurate, accurate thing to say, because it felt very lackluster in terms of fan support. It was very empty. Like, it was on the back nine. It was a, you know, like Ricky Fowler made like, I don't think that was a 72-foot putt, like a major putt, you know, big momentum to keep him in the, you know, near the lead for the day, you know, and going to Sunday, and it was just like a few claps. Like, it felt so lackluster. And apparently, like, a lot of the members of LA Country Club brought up a lot of the tickets and basically just held on to them. They didn't get them out. They wanted less people there on purpose. They show these stands here. I didn't see really those stands in real life. Like, it felt pretty less stands in this. Like, so I think the atmosphere really hampered the mood and a lot of the element. Because, like, even Brookline, you know, Country Club last year, you know, it was like, it was tough to fit a lot of people on that course, and I went to that one, you know, and I get it. I saw, you know, it was a lot of steep hills up and down, you know, kind of like this course to an extent. I get the area is very tight, like it's an old area, so it wasn't like you had like a big parking complex. There's parking all over the place. We were at a university like 5 miles off the way that they took a bus in, so there was like there was a lot of elements to that. You know, but yet they had about 40,000 people, while this had 20,000 people. You have the second largest metro market in the country, and it's the, you know, it's one of the 4 oldest. You know, it's one of the majors. And then like another example where I think also failed compared to like the amateur game. So like in this one, you know, even with the distances and stuff, like they have these bunkers here. And I don't think players ever end up in that. Some did get near that bunker, you know, the power ones, the ones that overhit it, you know, or they, you know, they kind of flirt with it, that, you know, that average like, you know, 350 yards off the tee or something. You know, I'm going kind of short here because I can. It's not a problem. You know, but it's like, this is like a hole where you have these bunkers, and the way these players are hitting and just the tees and everything, you know, it didn't really matter. Like, 22 feet, huh? We'll overswing it. Ah, just short. I'll put it on. So I think that hurt a lot. Yeah, take the par. So it's like, and there's several holes kind of like that where it really felt like they were never going to get penalized. Like, they have these penalties, you know, stuff to make it harder, and just didn't seem to matter. Now this is a good par 3. I remember this par 3 pretty well. So I gotta probably be careful. I don't want to overdo the time a bit. All right, I'm gonna. I know there's like a slope here. There we go. Yeah, not great, but a lot better than trying to do the 3-wood. I know the 3 would have probably gone over, way off. But yeah, I remember this was actually a very good par 3. It was actually interesting, a lot of interesting shots and approaches. But yeah, I remember, like, this one was okay. Like, I remember this a bit. Like, it's actually one of the more narrow ones we got. And the approach shot was interesting, but the tee shot didn't do much. Like, actually, no, I take that back. This one, like, this one didn't show well on TV. It's shame. You look at it, this actually makes it look interesting. Look at it. You hit up this big hill. It's kind of a blind shot. And actually, I remember this. I remember it was being a blind shot, but they never really showed much, like, you know, the fairway or trying to, it was just like, oh, there's a blind shot up the hill. It's like, okay, well, what's up there? And it's like, oh, this is what's up here. You got rough and it's a narrow fairway. Now, ironically, it's kind of like towards hole 18 at Riviera. You kind of have the same thing. You have a slight blind shot, you know, over a hill with a fairway. That said, you don't have any trees on the left side, but it is rough. So it's kind of like, you know, pick your poison if you kind of flirt with the right with the trees or with the rough. Oh, that's tough. Yeah. I'm underswinging this a bit, but I think it'd be okay. Ooh, it was. But yeah, see, that actually is an interesting, this is an interesting approach shot, so I like it. Where's the break? Wow. And I do remember, I think some players got in that bunker, and it's a deep bunker, so this is one of the See, and I think this is one of the issues I think is, and they have these elevations and uniqueness, and I think for the amateur game it's fun, but like for a lot of the pros, they're hitting like, you know, they're hitting good, you know, 280, 290, so they avoid a lot of these issues. Like, watch this, we're gonna get over, you know, this hill. Now, it might be in the rough, we'll see what happens. Now, I hit this valley, so it makes it a little more interesting. Now, there you go. But that didn't seem to happen as much, especially when the conditions were soft. And I did do a power drill, too. Oh, wow. I did not expect that. Like, anyway, so this is actually a good example. The whole display, you know, shows the seat that you wanted to. Now it is interesting. The back nine definitely played a lot tougher than the front. So, I was kind of inconsistent, but I have 3 birdies and I've only had a bogey in the back, so you kind of get a little example of what it is. Just do some shots. So now this is interesting. This is the par 5, and I remember this. Like, this bunker, it felt like it should have been more in play than it was, especially with the leaders. It seemed like a lot of them had no issues clearing it. I'm going to try and clear it with my sporadic driver. Yeah, see? Like Roy and them, they all seem to clear it. And granted, I kind of bombed that, but even a lot of the guys, they were not having that issue, or if they know they couldn't clear it, they're just like, you know what, we'll just go... we'll go a little short. I'm gonna go for it. Let's have a little fun. Yeah, like, but you kind of see that. It's like, you know, some of the penalties, like, that happened a couple other times in the courses, never really came to focus like you thought they would. You know, it did for probably the media days, you know, the amateurs and the members, of course. But yeah, it's just, it was interesting. I remember this par 3. This is a good par 3. It's short. I'm trying to think. I think, like, yeah, I think this is good. Yeah, she got a little closer. Oh well. Oh, so now I just, yeah, I'm trying to get this video under an hour, so I'm trying to not drag it out accidentally. Oh, out of curiosity, I haven't gone over any of the new stuff like the challenges or, you know, equipment stuff. I know they added some stuff in this update. I think also what hurt, thinking now, kind of playing this again, the final stretch isn't as interesting as you think. It's not an interesting final stretch. Like, it's like all the issues people may not like about Core Hollow. At least it's got a very good finishing stretch of holes. I thought Brookline did. Like, its final hole, it's pretty tough and unique. You know, it's like it's a valley up a hill, very tough green. You know, obviously Augusta is well known. You know, like, their final stretch is always, you know, very interesting. But like this one, so like, see, here you go. There's another bunker. I'm doing the regular drive, and most of these pros are gonna hit at least 280. It's not in play, and it's downhill, so they're not. You know, they're gonna have to really bad hit to make that bunker in play. You need really strong winds, and the strong winds didn't happen. And it's a very wide fairway, so this is my we'll do this. So this is like the power drive. It's more sporadic, and this is the regular. So like we have a lot of space to deal with, and I think that's what also kind of hurt, I think, this course a bit in terms of the U.S. Open and what people were expecting. Now there is some, yeah, so there's a little dip here, but it's not going to be an issue. And that's going to happen, like on the final day, you see Wyndham and Clark kind of hugging these areas and always end up fine, especially in the back nine with the you know, when the fairways are pretty wide, so it's really difficult for them. Yeah, that looks good. And again, you know, I'm not really against big greens. Like, you've had these other courses and they make it interesting, you know, with the approach shot. But it's like, that's some of these big greens and, you know, little breaks, no breaks. So it's kind of, I think it made it a little less challenging, interesting in terms of like, especially like watching TV. Especially when the conditions soften. You know, I softened stuff up a little here too. Now, yeah, see, I think 17 was a little interesting, especially with the bunker situation. But again, he had very wide fairways. So yeah, we're on the power drive. Yeah, this one wasn't too bad. No, this one's a little more interesting. A lot better than the last one. Definitely 18 in my opinion. I don't really remember those stands being here, to be honest. Yeah, I'll hit it a bit. Yeah, it's going to be rough. We'll flop this on. Yeah, this one, the 17 wasn't bad, but you know, a little uneventful. And then there's the 18. I think the 18 was severely disappointing. There's really not much to it. Honestly, I think this game made that looks a little. I think in reality, it's a little wider than even this game is showing, to be honest. At least it felt that way. Like an example, like Wyndham Clark. His drive went it looked like a bad slice, and it's still staying the fairway. I think the fairway was actually a little more narrow in this game than it was in the reality too, which doesn't help. Right on the left a bit. Should be okay. So, you know, and again, I'm looking at this like, you know, the only thing's rid of the rough, which didn't seem to matter too much, you know, as much as it should. And then even like this is actually one of the times I do think it's like, okay, you got a big green, but it's like when they do these back placements, it's like they have so much room, even if they go a little over. I mean, it's not very penalized, you know, with the fairway right there. Oh man, thought we cut it short, but we didn't. Like here, I'm gonna go a little over. It's like okay, you know, do a little chip. Well, let's do a spin. I haven't done those in a while. Oh, that's not a good idea. So, Yeah, there was no drama, really. All right, but this is LA Country Club. As I said, and I've played this a couple times. It's a mixed course. There's some really good holes that I like. I like the valleys. Looking next to that. I like some of the valleys. There's some unique approach shots. What just seemed to hurt. It's like it seemed inconsistent. I think some of the very wide fairways and just the way the pin locations and the setup did not make it very interesting to watch and did not challenge the players as you would typically expect the U.S. Open. And again, I'm trying to put in perspective the U.S. Open because the U.S. Open, as I said, they advertise themselves as the toughest test in golf, and I think it really seen record-breaking scores of two 8 under pars on Thursday. Fleetwood had 7 under par on a Sunday. Like, it didn't really matter. I mean, he got himself into a nice spot for pay and stuff, but he was not going to win it. Like, he was too far out. And it's like, it's just to see that it felt really like dampening the experience and what people expect. And then what I did want to focus on, kind of backtracking with the course itself. I think playing through it, like I think I have a little softer view of this course after playing it a couple times. Like I see the challenge, I see the cool, unique design, I see why some of these golf archetype people really hyped it up. But at the same time, I think they overhyped it a bit. I think there are some very boring, mediocre holes. I think there's some areas that, there was just way too much, forgiveness, I think, in terms of these fairways and just, they have these bunkers and stuff, but they were never really going to come into play for these guys because they're way too short or they're way too far of where they're teeing off. It didn't really matter. Obviously for the amateurs, sure, we duff shots, we do all kinds of stuff. But for these guys, even the amateurs that go into this, the amateurs that qualify, these are some of the best golfers in the world. They're not going to make, there might be a couple of those mistakes throughout the whole week, and that's it. In terms of like, you don't see it. So it's like those challenges never really going to matter, never going to come into play. And then NBC, as I said, didn't do a good job capturing some of those elevation changes. Like I think times they did. Some of the par threes, that one par four, you kind of go in the valley and it slopes rightward. You got trees in the way. I think that did a good job. But then the other times, actually, does it show all the holes here? Yeah, so we can just do this. But like, well, let's do this. This was a little more. It was narrow, but a lot of people birdied the first hole or even eagled it a couple times. I think there was at least one eagle. This one a little interesting. It was more like the approach shot, but you saw not much to it. This one I did like. I remember that one, especially with the pin placement over in the right with the bunkers, and there's some elevation changes. I do love this, by the way. The par 3, this is a good hole. Again, this kind of repeats this one. See, it's kind of like a bit of repeat. I think this one's more interesting because of the slopes and changes and so forth, while this one is just more about the elevated green that caused the challenge. This one was really unique. I thought this one was good. Another par 3, a long one, but pretty interesting. But nothing. Yeah, kind of interesting because you got the bunkers on the right there, but again, most of the golfers are gonna go left, and they sloped inwards. So it didn't matter much. This was a good par 5. I did like this one. I remember this one a bit. Another par 3. I thought it was pretty solid. Yeah, but like this one. Like, yeah, you had those, have a second fair to right, but no one really used. I was just going straight towards it. It didn't matter. See, again, a lot of that didn't come into play. Another par 3. I thought it was a good one with the bunkers in the front, Yeah, but like this one, I mean, pretty uneventful. Yeah, it's funny. You see, like, the fairway to the, but never was going to matter. There's trees in the way. This one was a good one. I remember this one. I thought, yeah, you got the bunkers actually in play. You got the little valley there. Like, that's an actual interesting hole. This is the par 5. This one's kind of like, it's disappointing. It's very long, but that first bunker you saw, a lot of people cleared it, and there's just more about your approach shot. Now, I took a chance and got punished for it. But it was like golfers just laid up or short. They actually, most of them did lay up. They laid up short, and they just kind of chipped it on. And that's the smart thing. That's what you need to do. You got to have that strategy in golf. But again, it didn't really punish them because there was a big green. They have a lot of room for error with those chip shots. Again, I like big greens. I'm not really against them. You have them in the open, with I was seeing a couple few weeks here. But just kind of disappointing, just kind of the whole setup here. This is the short par 3. I thought that played really interesting. Yeah, I like that one. This par 4, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I like that one. This one wasn't bad, and this one I did like. I did thought the 17 hole was pretty interesting. This is a long par 4. I think that's what made it more interesting. It was really long, but again, a lot of the features, like those first bunkers, were not really in play for a lot of these golfers, including me in this game. And then this hole I thought was just pretty. There's a very boring ending hole. Yeah, you got those bunkers there, but very wide fairway. And this is also a wide fairway too, to be honest. So yeah. Anyway, I think kind of going over it. I think this is a good course. I think it'd be better if it was more for the USAM or the USGA events, maybe even like a women's open, which will get good crowds, but they don't get like, obviously not as usually as big as the men's, but it's just sad. It's just how it is, unfortunately. It's not like people aren't interested in the U.S. Women's Open. I just know they just never generate as enough. I've been to women's major before, and it's still probably like half of like the crowd of the PGA Championship. Actually, a good example. I went to the women's PGA Championship in the suburbs of Chicago, and I've been to the PGA Championship in Wisconsin, and that probably had like double the amount of people at the men's and the women's. It's just how it is. Not. So it's anyway. But for those who haven't been to a women's tournament, I recommend it. They're really fun to watch. I digress. So I think it's a good course overall. I think it deserves some USGA events. I just don't think it shouldn't have the US Open. They couldn't get a lot of fans. The obviously the country club caused that, but the topography and the logistical issues caused it. I think the marine layer in June really hampered a lot of the conditions and made it a little too soft for what we expected or what we've seen on the East Coast, or even like Pebble Beach has been more interesting. So yeah, I think it's a shame. Like I think overall, like it was an okay U.S. Open, and it was really good on Saturday. It got really interesting. Conditions were tough, with the warm weather they had that day. But it ended a very boring Saturday or Sunday. Wyndham Clark, he didn't really run away with it. He got a little ahead and just kind of held it. Rory couldn't make a move. He was the only one that was in position to. Couldn't get any putts to drop, and most fell off. And it was just a really boring finish. The atmosphere was very lackluster until the last few holes and so forth. So, it is what it is. So it's kind of a shame. This is probably one of the more disappointing majors I've seen in quite a while. I say since 2020, and that was mostly due to COVID. And maybe I don't know. I say the Shinnecock U.S. Open was pretty bad, because it was so dry and bad. Like the conditions, it just seemed like balls were bouncing erratically. And that's funny. That's what people want carnage. You got carnage, but not in a very clever way, in a very crappy way, with just really horrible conditions. But that's a different story for another time. So yeah, this is probably. I kind of agree with some people. This is probably one of the worst sport, and definitely not a top 20 U.S. Open they've seen in their lifetimes. In my lifetime, I can at least count a good 15, 20. I have watched mostly, fully. And I say it's definitely one of the worst I've seen, and it's not like the worst golf tournament ever. Like, there was no intriguing stories. It's just very lackluster ending, lackluster the way the course played and set up and so forth. So, but anyway, hope you guys enjoyed my rambling, kind of going over the course. I do like this in EA Sports, by the way, they do this. But anyway, hope you enjoy. Everyone take care.